Should you be buying real estate leads? So obviously there are a lot of benefits to it. There are also a lot of negatives to it as well. And it's really important before you are going to move forward with buying leads with working with an agency or an individual to understand really what you're getting yourself into, because you could see a tremendous amount of success with buying real estate leads, but it could also be detrimental if you are not aware of what you're getting yourself into. So I'm going to first start with some of the downfalls with buying leads, some things that people don't necessarily know about before they get into it. And then after that, I'm going to get into the pros. So first off, let's get into the cons. The first challenge that I see oftentimes people face when they are thinking about buying leads is that, number one, they are very expensive. There's no workaround with this. If you're going to do it well, you've got to generate the leads, you've got to qualify the leads, you've got to nurture the leads, you've got to actually have whoever you're hiring to actually ideally be booking appointments inside of your calendar. There's a lot of steps involved in that process. And then when you also include the ad spend that goes along with it as well, as long as the hiring the people to qualify the leads and the processes and the systems, it can actually be very expensive. So that's something to consider, is that although you may very, very likely, and honestly probably if you're doing it right, see a return on your investment at the end of the day, you need to have that initial capital up front, and it's just something to be aware about, because doing it right is not cheap. But obviously, as expensive as it is to work with a professional, it's infinitely more expensive to work with an amateur. And now for the second con. There are a lot of agencies out there, and unfortunately, it being so much competition out there and it being such a saturated market, it's really difficult to properly identify which agencies are the ones that can produce results for you and the ones that cannot. And so I'm sure at any given moment in your inbox, you'll have about 100 different people, agencies, whatever it is, telling you that they've got the system that works. The reality is that at the end of the day, there's no secrets to this stuff. It's just the people who've put together the best systems, who've run the best ads, who've just had results in the past. Those are the ones that you should be gravitating towards. So when you are looking for an agency, make sure you do your due diligence so that you're working with an agency that has produced results. Ideally, speak to clients of those agencies as well, because obviously any agency can put forward their best results and say this is normal, but make sure that you're speaking to people who've worked with them so that you can properly research that you are actually spending a lot of money with somebody who can definitely provide results or return on your investment. Okay, and number 3, and this is a really, really important one, and I wouldn't say this is necessarily a con, but it's definitely something to consider, is that there's a lot of work required on your part. So as an agent, even if you're working with lead generation agencies, they're going to generate the leads, even if they qualify them, even if they nurture them, even if they book appointments, there is still a sales process that is involved after the actual appointment has been booked. So it really does require that you master your sales skills, that you know exactly how much information you want to give them at each interaction. Make sure you have a game plan, because if you don't have a game plan, you're just relying on the lead generation agencies, it's not going to work out. So I don't care how good a lead generation agency is, it's not the norm for somebody to see an ad and then say, I'm going to work with that guy, click on it, and then move forward and work with you as an agent. It doesn't really work like that. What it is there's an offer to entice a click, and then there's a process that takes that click into a qualification process, and then hopefully an appointment, and then after enough nurture and enough conversation, then it does actually become a call. So that's another thing to consider, is that there is a process involved. So if you're going to sign up and think, I've got these guys taking care of everything now, I'm off the hook, I'm good, it's not going to work like that, and you're going to be very sorely disappointed. The next thing to understand is it is a long process. So generating leads, if you're doing it the right way, will require some nurture, will require follow-up, and that process, it could be even 4 months before you see any sort of return on your investment. And that sort of time, not everybody has that time to wait, especially if you're paying sometimes $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 up to a month on lead generation services. So really make sure that before you are signing up that you have the capital up front, and that you're able to be patient before you start seeing results, and that you really do hone in your follow-up process, and you've got all of this figured out before you work with an agency. The next negative is that lead generation agencies don't build your brand, they build your database, which could also be a pro as well, as that it's building your database. However, your brand isn't growing with a lead generation service. So if you were to hypothetically invest in SEO, or maybe a website, or I don't know, any other sort of branding package, that is going to be growing your brand, or let's say social media management. That grows your brand. However, lead generation, it doesn't really matter who the agent is at the other end of that ad. All that really matters is the offer that you're incentivizing them with. So there are obviously lead generation agencies that do ads for branding, saying this is the agent and we've gotten these results, and those are fine as well. But I'm just strictly talking in terms of generating leads. That is not going to build your brand, that's going to build your database. So it could be a pro that is building your database, but strictly in terms of growing your brand, it is actually a negative as well. So now I want to get into the different payment structures that I often see when it comes to lead generation agencies, and both of them have pros and both of them have cons. One of them is a commission sharing model, kind of like what you'll see oftentimes with Zillow, is that you'll have to share the commissions of everything that you close from leads that they brought in. Obviously, that would be akin to a referral fee. Or you've got retainers, which you'll pay them $1,000, $2,000 a month. The other option is that there's a mixture of both. So you'll pay a few $100s a month and then also share some of the commissions. So like I said, there are pros and cons of each of these. The cons for the commission sharing model, particularly with the more experienced real estate agents, are that if an experienced agent has the capital to invest in a lead generation agency and then wait about 4 to 6 months, let's say, before they really start to see those numbers come in, then if you're sharing all of your commissions with the lead generation agency, that's a really frustrating thing to have to do, because there's a lot of money that you're going to be paying out. Obviously, the flip side of that is, as a new agent, if you don't have the capital up front, I would highly suggest that you sign up with an agency that will accept payments in terms of shared commissions, because that way you're still getting your business, you're sort of testing the waters, getting your feet wet a little bit, and then you'll be able to see how you want to move forward in the future. In terms of the retainer model is hands down a better model for the more experienced agents, because if they have the capital up front to be able to invest and to wait about 4 to 6 months before those numbers really start to come in, then their commissions are going to be theirs. And obviously, as we know in real estate, the commissions are quite hefty, so you will certainly be keeping a lot more of the money for yourself if you have the capital up front to invest in 4 to 6 months of a retainer model. However, if you are a new agent and you don't have that capital up front, like I said before, definitely share your commissions, because if you are going to be paying a retainer as a new agent, the worst thing that you can do is start to panic after 2 to 3 months, because then you're just down $2,000 to $3,000 you're looking for any way out of your contract, because the agency hasn't produced results, which they very likely won't be able to do in 3 months, because that's just not how this stuff works. And then you're down about $3,000 with nothing to show for it. So that is definitely what I would suggest you do as a new agent. And so there you have all of the cons. But now let's get to the pros of it. So the first pro when it comes to working with a lead generation agency is predictability. Very simply, if you're working with an agency that does what they say they can do, you will be getting about 20 highly qualified appointments per month. And again, qualified doesn't mean they're ready to sign on the dotted line on the first phone call, but that means, yes, I'm in the market for a home, or I will be in the next 2 to 3 months. And if you really take care of those clients and you have your follow-up system in place, then that can really turn into real money. So predictability is definitely going to be the biggest reason to sign up with a lead generation agency. The second thing is, it really does work. Like, it's not a complicated process. It's very simple. All you need is somebody or some system, or I guess not somebody, more preferably an agency, because there are different moving parts. But if you can work with an agency that really does know what they're doing, has produced results in the past, it does work. There's no two ways about it. As long as you have the money to stay consistent and to play it out for, let's say, about 3, 4 to 6 months, or somewhere around that range, just because the buyer process, generally speaking, is a little bit longer than 1 to 2 months, although it does happen. If you have the money to stay consistent, it does work. It's as simple as that. Number 3 is, by hiring a lead generation agency to take care of your appointments, it's going to save you a ton of time to do the things on your business that you want to be doing, as opposed to working in your business. So let's say if you want to set aside, I don't know, an hour a day to do some cold calling, for example, although you might not necessarily need to do that because you still have all of your conversations from the lead generation agency, but you will now have the time to do that because you won't be dealing with all of the menial stuff that the lead generation agency is able to do for you. The other thing is, you're never going to have to worry about where your next appointment is coming from, where your next potential client is coming from, which will allow you to invest more of your time into the things that are not urgent but are very important, such as building up your brand, or posting on social media, or getting to know your community, or getting out there and speaking to people. It will really allow you the time to go and do that. The next thing, which I sort of briefly alluded to before when I was talking about the cons, is that it's not going to grow your brand. But the pro here is, it will build your database. And obviously, real estate is a numbers game. If you're speaking to a lot of people, obviously everybody at some point in their time will move, whether or not it's a rental or a buy or a sell. It doesn't matter. Everyone will move. And if you're the guy that they know, if you're the guy or the girl that they know, and you've been speaking to them and you've built that relationship and the rapport, then the bigger your database is, as long as your follow-up systems are in place, the more business you'll have. It's as simple as that. So a good lead generation agency should be able to generate leads for you, qualify the leads, yes, but also if even after the termination of the contract with that lead generation agency, you're able to keep your leads, then let's say if they've generated 600 leads for you over the span of 3 months, and that's 600 more names that you're able to nurture, there should be about 6 more deals somewhere in there, or let's say even 12 more deals according to the averages from Realtor.com. And then lastly, in terms of the different payment structures, like I said before, the pros of the commission sharing model is that if you are a new agent and you know that you want to be working with a lead generation agency, but you just don't have the capital up front, then definitely sharing your commissions is a really nice, easy way to go. Number one, to get some transactions and experience under your belt. But also number two is it does allow you to work with some of the better agencies as long as you're willing to part with your money after you do make those closes. But like I said, if you're a new agent and you don't have the capital to put the risk up front, then this is certainly a great way to go. The pros for the more experienced agents obviously would be a retainer-based model, because if you're working with an agency that has generated results, if your sales process is really fine-tuned and you're able to turn leads into results, then definitely you'll be making a good amount more than $2,000 extra per month from this agency. So if you're paying, let's say, $2,000 per month from this agency, depending on your market, but that could be an extra 2, 3, 4, 5 houses per month that you're making. So definitely in that case, a retainer model for a more experienced agent that has the capital to invest for a few months upfront is certainly the way to go. I really hope you got value out of this video. If you did get value out of this video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help the algorithm. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your time. Let's go get him.